is fans can go one of two different ways: rational or irrational. So, Espo, it's up to you. Where do you want to go?
You know me. I'm going to go rational.
Nah, let's get irrational. Suns, we're live on a Monday afternoon. Thank all of you for being in here, right now. If you're here on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I am Beanie-less, so I am not Lindsey Smith. I am Eric Ruby, joined, of course, by Espo. If you're wondering, where's Steven, where's Gerald, where's Lindsey? Well, they're all off getting ready for...
Steven's like 4 feet.
Here.
I mean, come
Steven's
on.
Steven's just glued to his computer watching every single dribble of last night's game over and over again, like Clockwork Orange. And Lindsey and Gerald are off getting ready because we have our Valley Suns take over tonight. Sold out, Espo. Exciting stuff. We're going to get more into the Valley Suns later in our last segment today. But we do have some housekeeping here, of course. We thank all of you on audio. Make sure you hit that 5 stars. Make sure you review as well. But I am not behind the Mac, and I will no longer be behind the Mac because, Espo, we have a new member of the PHNX Suns family.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this.
You putting me back?
I know I was the one that made the decision, but no, we got to welcome our new producer into the fold. Noah is the man behind the Mac now. Our 4th producer in 4 years. We go through them like, Lindsey goes through beanies. So,
well, to be fair, all the producers they haven't left on bad terms. They've all had opportunities presented to them.
You still have a chance.
I mean, it's up there. I could leave on bad terms, but we want to welcome in Noah Walbrecht joining us from Michigan, coming in all the way out here. Hi, Noah. How's it going?
Hello.
All right. And
I got to say, the man is wearing a USFL Michigan Panthers shirt, and to me, he's speaking my love language. Defunct spring football leagues are very much what I love. So,
well, before we get into something you don't love, which is what Nikola Jokic had to say last night after his game, I want to remind everybody that this show is presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHNX365 when you sign up and find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Espo, the floor is yours. More beef is on the way.
Yeah, last night I'm sitting there after the Suns' loss, and I think, well, you know what? It wasn't that awful of a night. And I'm scrolling through IG, and I came across this clip. Noah, can you play it?
I have the whole team working for me, so I'm just there for to take the ball when someone is deflect, like when someone is lost it or whatever, and try to steal it. Be a cookie monster.
Let me make something very clear to you. You are no cookie monster, Jokic. You are on my corner, and me don't like it. Me, in fact, hate being on the same corner as you. Get off my corner!
Nikola Jokic trying to claim he's cookie monster? No, Denver. All right, you got the Larry O'Brien before us. Isn't that enough? Can't you leave us with things that we like without trying to take them from us? This is where I draw the line, Nikola Jokic. You may be an MVP, but you are no cookie monster, sir.
I think my favorite moment when you go into not Cookie Monster, Nookie Monster.
This is true. I don't want to get sued.
Right. It is when you jump back to your normal voice, right? Like just instantly right afterwards, still talking about the same thing. I think that's my favorite moment with every Nookie Monster.
Look, Jokic, you are totally wrong. No, you are no cookie monster. You're no Nookie monster.
You are right, Nookie. He is in no way at all a Cookie Monster or a Nookie Monster.
Why, Espo, thank you very much. You are correct, sir.
Okay, we'll have a question for Nookie and for Espo, and it's from Leo as well. It says, Espo, did you like Eric's very aggressive sexy sacks from Friday?
It was most disgusting thing I have ever seen.
Y'all just hate passion.
It was not passion. It was just bad. I'm surprised that Eric does not have broken neck.
I agree 100%. I don't know what the hell that was. It was not sexy sacks. It was about as far from sexy as you can get. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it, or actually better yet, don't, and save yourself the pain.
Wow. I didn't even think it was that bad.
It was bad.
I didn't think it was that bad. I was just hyped after a win, which was not something that we got to do last night. Of course, if you missed last night's post-game show, I'd highly encourage you go check that out. Of course, Lindsay, Steven, Gerald, all giving their thoughts on the game with Espo. But let's dive into maybe some of the points that we missed, Espo. And we had a graphic made last night. We didn't get to it, but there was an X factor. And so we're going to award like a late X factor. And that's to Mason Plumlee, who had himself one heck of a game, some really great highlights, like passing highlights. And I thought that he stepped in admirably for an injured Yusuf Nurkic in the second half. And he's been really solid for the Suns this season.
Yeah, look, I mean, he is, people want to demand for him to be the starting center, and that's not who he is, right? He's great in 15, 20-minute increments, in a game. Last night, he showcased how well he can pass the ball, couple no-look passes. It was very good. He brings the energy, and he has some athleticism, not as much as he did earlier in his career, but he brings that to the floor. I love the hustle last night. He obviously had to play some serious minutes in the second half with Yusuf Nurkic out. But there was the missed free throw late in that game that could have put the Suns up 4. He missed it, and they wound up only being up 3, which turned out to be problematic as it went to overtime. That was the one thing that probably stood out as a negative. But overall, Mason Plumlee coming out and doing what you hope when you signed him.
Yeah, minus that missed free throw, he played about as good of a game as you could expect Mason Plumlee to play. Only 6 points, but adding six assists and 11 rebounds along with a steal. I mean, just good minutes, just playing 26 of them and being able to do that, and playing well alongside Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. But like you mentioned, Espo, Suns weren't able to pull it off. And part of that was missed free throws, not just from him, but Bradley Beal missed a couple free throws as well. So let's just dive in a little bit deeper as to what happened. And before we give our thoughts, we do have a little compilation from Book, Bud, and Beal just about, was this inevitable and them not being able to make shots last night?
Yeah, he's super high energy. He's a pleasure to be out on the floor with. Yeah, I think we shot over 53s, and a lot of them were good looks. We'll make more.
100%. I think he was doing a good job of just reading the double teams. He had a good open look at the end of the regulation. Had some good open looks in overtime, and we just didn't hit him. I think we definitely loved the quality of shots we were getting. I think Book had like 9, 10 assists, so ball was moving, bodies were moving, so it was good. We just got to step up and knock them down the stretch.
Did this feel like a game the Suns kind of handed over? They just didn't hit shots. It was the Kings game.
Yes and no. I mean, I think what it came down to was, DeMar DeRozan and the Kings, De'Aaron Fox hit those shots from the mid and close to the hoop. And when you can't convert on your open looks from 3, you give up the math advantage right there, right? And I think the Kings played a really good game. I think sometimes you try to put blame in one place rather than giving the opponent credit, and the Kings played a really good game. The Suns had a shot at the end, literally, to win it and couldn't pull it off, and you can't overcome that many missed opportunities to win a game.
Yeah, and we'll get into some more clutch numbers that you were able to pull together later in this show. But there are just certain nights in the NBA where the talent level is so good that just a couple of guys, they become unstoppable. And that's the difference here. And especially when it gets down late, the Suns were outscored 16-7 in overtime. And you could tell Book was getting a little bit gassed. Beal was actually playing not like he was gassed. He was throwing his body all over the place, but he had gotten banged up a little bit. He tweaked his ankle. He had DeMar DeRozan fall on his knee. Yusuf Nurkic didn't play in the second half due to injury. Of course, Ryan Dunn played, but had been dealing with an ankle injury beforehand. This just felt like one of those games where, sure, could you have tweaked things? Could you have done things differently to one? Absolutely. I mean, that's every single game, right? But the reality of this long NBA season is there going to be a certain moments in certain games where that just doesn't happen. And with so many clutch wins so far to lead the Suns to 8-1, a clutch loss with their opponents being two of the best clutch players that the NBA's had over the last 5 years in DeMar DeRozan and De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron winning the Clutch Player of the Year award, I believe, 2 years ago. It just got to the point where they were making shots and you weren't. And I know it's like a simple way to break it down, and that's not like an excuse. It's not like, oh, it's okay that they lost, but you flush it and you move on. The people who are ready to just like panic when this team dropped to 8-2 on the season and 5-1 at home in overtime against a good team, I don't get the panic.
The problem is it's PTSD, right?
That's true.
I mean, let's just be honest. This is a group of fans that have been through the ringer when it comes to this team, and the expectations are high. But when it kind of has a game like last night, you worry, is this the start of something? The Suns can't have this kind of shooting throughout the time that Kevin Durant's out over the next 2 weeks. They have to convert on those open looks more often than not. If you have another game where you put up 57 threes and you just don't hit them, or even if you're putting up 47 and you're not hitting them at a 35 to 38% clip, you're going to have the same fans panicking again. You have to convert on easy looks. If you lose while making those shots that you're supposed to, those high percentage looks, you can live with it. But when you're not, and it happens multiple times in a row, I think that's when not a panic, but a concern is warranted. They need to come back on, Tuesday against Utah and then Wednesday against the Kings in Sacramento and shoot efficiently and effectively like we've come to expect from this group.
But is that something that you don't think that like they can get right? And I'm just kind of framing that in the sense of, there's panic around Devin Booker. There's panic around Bradley Beal. There's panic around this team without Kevin Durant. And we'll talk about how they survive without him. But there are certain things where it's like, hey, I know who a lot of these guys are, and I'm not worried about, the shots evening out and them falling as the season goes on, especially over the next couple of weeks. Like, I personally am not worried about that until it becomes a pattern. And right now it's one game. It's not a pattern.
Well, no, I agree. But when you're looking back at last year, these things tended to snowball, right? And it felt like when one guy started to have that, multiple guys started to have trouble with their shooting. And you can't afford to have that. I understand the consternation from fans. I don't understand the full-blown panic. I had one guy saying, oh, we need to trade Devin Booker.
That's insane.
I don't understand that kind of stuff, but I do understand the concern because, there's only so much you can take before that just becomes the way you feel with this. Do I think that this is going to continue? No, I think they will find their rhythm. I think you're not going to see Grayson Allen, who we'll talk about later, shooting, in the low 30s from three. You're not going to see Devin Booker have his issues offensively for a whole season. You're not going to see these things play out the way that they did in one game, that in the way that they did in a handful of games for some of these guys leading up to it. But there is concern when you don't have Kevin Durant, who was unbelievable in the clutch so far this year.
Yeah.
So I get the concern to an extent, but I don't get the panic.
Yeah, I think what you said about you're worried about it becoming a habit, and that's where I'm just speaking for me personally, and I understand as a fan, sometimes it's hard to put these things in perspective. And like, I'm a massive fan. Like, I love this team. I want them to win all 82 games. Like, if you watch a game with me, I'm screaming at my TV. If it's game 10, if it's game 80, I don't care. But with Bud, he's established this culture, and it feels like they've done so good in righting their wrongs from last season that if it was still Frank Vogel and they started 8-1, and then all of a sudden this happened, I would share that concern. I'd be like, okay, what are we doing here? Is this going to be kind of the fool's gold of winning a bunch of clutch games at the beginning turned into, man, the Suns just cannot do anything unless Kevin Durant's out there. And this team doesn't win a championship if they are just the team that can win with Kevin Durant. You need to be able to win without him. But the Kings are a good team. You got taken to overtime. There was a massive free throw discrepancy until you entered late in the fourth quarter. Like, there were so many ways for the Suns to win this game, and there were so many ways for them to easily improve that I see that happening over the next couple of games. One of those being Devin Booker, but I also want to talk about Bud a little bit more because there was a lot of people last night, Espo, who were not thrilled about Bud's game plan on DeMar DeRozan. And I know you guys talked about it, and Steven mentioned how, the way that DeMar was operating in the space that he was in, you could put anybody in front of him. He was probably going to hit those shots. But I think that there's a valid reasoning to say you should still at least try something different in that moment when you're getting torched like that, especially in the clutch.
Let me take one step back in terms of the way people are feeling. It's going to continue regardless. You saw the greatest regular season Suns team win 64 games and then get blown out in a deciding game. This team, until they win a championship, this is unfortunately going to be the mentality. So I think it's here to stay, and you got to deal with it. In terms of the defense, I mean, yeah, I think we talked about it last night a little bit as well. Could you have thrown double teams? Could you have tried some different things? Yes. And I think that, Coach Bud would probably be the first one to admit that he had some opportunities to do things slightly differently. But I also, looking at it, I really feel like there wasn't a lot you were going to do to slow down DeMar DeRozan. But what you probably could have done is force a few of those shots that he would have to pass the ball somewhere else. And I think that was the missed opportunity, was trying to force him to defer to somebody else and make them make a shot as you got down there. And I think you could have done that potentially by running some double teams, mixing up the coverage, that I don't think they did quite enough.
Yeah, and I don't know if Ryan Dunn was on a minutes restriction or why we didn't really see him at the end. I think I would have at least tried it. If I'm Bud, and obviously he's way smarter than me, but with my little pea brain over here, I would have at least tried to the term throw the kitchen sink at him. I mean, for me, Bud's done that in games this season. He did it in game one, where he's going to throw out a completely different look because he assessed the game and he said, this is how we win right now. And you don't win that game last night by just leaving Royce O'Neal on an island, who Royce is a scrappy defender. He can guard up a position. Like, he's a smart guy. But with a shot maker like DeMar, who's bigger than him, who has incredible touch, especially in the mid-range, it's hard to put a guy like Royce on an island. And you saw it in OT where DeRozan just hit bucket after bucket after bucket, including and one jumpers, because it didn't matter if there was a hand in his face. He needed to. You needed to send more people there on him. And Dunn did an okay job in the first half, but even taking that outside of it, you're right. Throw something different at it. Like, to me, I don't like we're just going to live with this guy if he's on fire. I don't love that approach unless nobody else around him is like, if everybody around him is hitting, right? Like, if, oh man, this guy's on fire, but if we go off of Kevin Huerter, who hasn't hit a shot since the first half, like, that doesn't really matter. I just think that you should have done something differently in this specific game, but it doesn't mean that I'm worried about Bud's philosophy, how he coaches, or how he adjusts going forward, unless, Steven brought this up when I was talking to him today. Bud doesn't like double teaming guys who are making a big impact. I think eventually I would like to. Oh, he's right there. Of course.
And I get that. And I understand that. And I think Dunn's injury it played a part in it because it's an ankle injury, but I also think part of it is you're trying to make sure you have enough offensive firepower as well. So you're trying to balance that. I think it was one of those lessons. I think even Bud has to learn some of these things with his rotation and trying to figure out the way to handle it. So I think that's part of it as well. As it's just this balance, and you're 10 games in, right?
Yeah.
You don't have all the answers. You're not quite sure what personnel you want to use where, and quite frankly, you're one game into not playing with Kevin Durant. It's the first time Bud's done that with this lineup, so you're trying to figure it out now, and you're not calling timeout to go defense and offense, right? You're not swapping it out. You can second guess a lot of little things in these kind of losses. I think this is just one you chalk up to. Coach Bud will figure it out the next time it comes around.
Well, that's one game down without Kevin Durant, but there are plenty more to go. We're going to let you know what Beal, Book, and Bud said about missing Durant and how the Suns can tread water with him out, but we're going to do it right after a quick break. I love our friends over at Sanderson Ford, and we are proud that they are our official partner here for vehicles at PHNX. And there are Black Friday sales everywhere. It becomes one of the biggest sales periods of the years. But with being the day after Thanksgiving, it's fitting to say thank you. And Sanderson Ford is thankful to have lived and prospered for the last 70 years in Glendale, Arizona. They've been family owned and operated over 3 generations, and they have a no-nonsense approach. And they have a Black Friday thank you sale the entire month of November. It's not just a day, it's a month over at Sanderson Ford, and that just makes sense because they do things bigger over there. Whether it's their 65-acre facility, the largest Ford dealership in the nation, whether you add up all their sales, including retail and fleets, they sell more Fords than anyone in the nation. Oh, and they're the Ford's most awarded dealership in customer satisfaction in America. They go big or they go home. And right now you can get a new 2024 F-150 truck with 3.9 APR financing for 66 months, plus up to $4,000 cash back with similar savings on over 900 new and pre-owned vehicles on the lot. So don't miss the Sanderson Ford Black Friday thank you sale. Disclaimer, OAC through Ford credit up to $4,000 cash back requires trade-in of 95 or newer vehicle. Offer expires November 30th.
Look, what comes out of my mouth is rarely ordinary. With our friends at Bet365, it's never ordinary when you place a wager with them. 90 million worldwide users. That means, they're liked, and you should be there as well. And right now, for new customers, you can choose between 2 offers. You've heard me talk about these. When you open an account at Bet365, use that promo code PHNX365 to sign up, deposit $10 and place a bet of $5 or more and get $150 in bonus bets. That's the offer right there. That's the one you should go with because it is spectacular. So I highly recommend that. Download the Bet365 app, use that promo code PHNX365 when you sign up and place a bet of $5 or more and get $150 in bonus bets. Find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov.
Thank you, all of you, for being in here on a Monday afternoon. Eli, Ted, Girth Jr., yes, even you, King Nacho. Hello. Thank you for being here. Steven's in the chat.
I think we got to downgrade him to Court Jester Nacho.
Court Jester Nacho?
Yeah.
I like that. Joker Nacho. Steven, of course, in the chat, even though he's sitting right over here. Amelia, Rickety Bridge, Amzobi, we thank all of you for being here. Make sure while you're here, hang out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. If you're new around here at PHNX Sports, we cover all of your favorite teams here locally, 5 shows a week, every single week, whether it's Diamondbacks, Cardinals, U of A, ASU, we have you covered all right here. Just hit that little subscribe button. Espo, I don't know if you knew this, but Kevin Durant is out for 2 weeks. The Phoenix Suns.
Fun fact: I don't pay much attention to the Suns.
You're more of like a U of A guy. You love U of A football. I'm Brett Brennan guy.
I'm more of a pro pickleball guy.
Hey.
I just watch that all.
It's
the time.
On the come up. Pro pickleball
if you say that.
But we saw for the first time the Suns without Kevin Durant this season, and of course he's been really dang good for the Suns, not just through, the first 3.5 quarters, but especially in the clutch. You could tell that they missed the calming presence of Kevin Durant last night.
Yeah, and of course you would. I mean, it's Kevin Durant, and in those moments, that's who you've turned to over the last 2 years, really. So, of course, you're going to miss him in a game like last night, but the fact is you're without him for 7 games in all likelihood, potentially more, because they said reevaluated in 2 weeks. Not will be back on the court playing, reevaluated. So that does not guarantee that 2 weeks is the point that he comes back. So you got to remember, you got to figure it out. So I don't care if he was your safety blanket, if he made you feel comfortable at the beginning of the year. You got a job to do. You got to go out there and win those clutch games. They didn't last night. They failed in the moment, but now you got to learn from that, move on. Hopefully you're not in a clutch situation against Utah. And then if you are against Sacramento in Sacktown on Wednesday, you've now got that experience without Kevin Durant.
Yeah, to get the Mr. Spin Zone, which is something that I say over on ASU, when something that's, definitely bad happens, but you can look at it as what are the positives that you could take away from this. The Phoenix Suns will not be a championship contender if they can't win games without Kevin Durant. That's just the way that it is. If you can't go out there and consistently win over at least half of your games with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and this supporting cast, then when Kevin Durant's added to that equation, you're not going to be good enough to go on and take yourself to the ultimate level. Not a deep playoff run. I'm sure they could do that in the situation, but win it all. Cut down the nets, bring this franchise its first championship. And I think last night is not the perfect encapsulation of what this team is without Kevin Durant. There was somebody who mentioned it earlier in the chat, a lot of missed open shots last night from a guy like Royce O'Neal. We'll get into Grayson Allen, who's had a lackluster start to the season so far. There are so many different ways that the Suns can step up without Kevin Durant. But Espo, the peak of all of that is Devin Booker. And while he's put on a passing display in the last two games, and especially last night without KD, you need Devin Booker to go back into the alpha number one scoring option, Devin Booker, that we saw last season at a lot of times, and of course for his entire career. I have no doubt in my mind that he can get there. I think we can attribute the last couple scoring performances to some sort of weird bug, illness, or injury. But are you at all worried about Devin Booker stepping up while Kevin Durant is out?
I'm slightly concerned based on some of what we've seen this year, to be honest, because it hasn't been the same Devin Booker in terms of volume scoring and taking over quarters, those fast starts in the first quarter, which has been something that's been a kind of a hallmark of Devin Booker. I was also a little confused last night because we got sold on the Tyus Jones being the true point guard, Devin Booker not playing point book. The roles got reversed. Now, Tyus was hot from deep, so I understand it, but I wonder how much is Devin still trying to be that playmaker? How much is it impacting him at times? Only time is going to tell, though. And we'll get into, I looked at some stats in terms of closing. We'll get into that later in the show that I think puts things in an interesting light. But he has to step up with Kevin Durant out. If he doesn't, that's a failure, right? That's a massive failure if he doesn't step up and take over while Kevin Durant's out. That's on him and Bradley Beal. We talked about in pregame. This is their show now, and both of them have to step up to make up for that offensive output that's being lost, and also some of that defense that Kevin Durant has been so good with. You now need both of these guys to step up, as well as the rest of the roster. But those are the two high-paid guys. They got to step up.
Yeah, Steve in the chat says, the more doubles Booker sees, the more he displays his growth as a passer. I'm impressed. I think that is the one positive takeaway from Devin Booker's season so far. His scoring numbers have left some to be desired, and that is a role that he needs to fill even more without Kevin Durant. But his passing has continually gotten better and better and better. But like you mentioned, that's not the role that he's supposed to be in right now, with or without Kevin Durant. And before KD went down, we sat here and we gave out grades and we said Devin Booker has to be better. He has to be better as a scorer. He can't be up and down. He needs to be consistent. Sure, you don't have to expect the 40 points every night or the high 30s from him, but you don't want to see 2 games in the 30s and 40s and the rest of them in the low 20s, right? Well, like you need some more consistent, not effort, but consistent performance and production from Book on the scoring angle in order to unlock everything else that the Suns team is supposed to boast.
Look, and I appreciate that the passing continues to grow, but part of what we were all sold on is with Tyus Jones here, there's less mileage that you're putting on Book. He's not going to have to carry that load. You can find him in his spots. I understand there's a new offensive system, but the reality is, if Devin Booker isn't that guy alongside Kevin Durant, you're going to have a tough time reaching where you want to get. You're going to have a tough time when Kevin Durant isn't there. So I need Devin Booker to be a little bit more
Sure.
of the old Devin Booker. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. And look, we joked that Bud's system is basketball communism, and I kind of spread it around, share everything. I need Devin Booker to be a little selfish, and selfish in the right way. Steven has brought up, and I agree with him, the mixture of shot selection, that Devin needs to get to the rim a little bit more than we've seen. And I think that's a valid point. I'd like to see a handful more middies. I don't need to see 10 threes. I'd love to see 8 threes until he starts hitting them at a clip that is a little bit more Devin Booker-ish. That's what I need to see. And I think he can get in that groove with KD out and then carry it through when KD's back as well. So I get the double teams are going to be part of it. He's going to face double teams because now there's not the gravity of Kevin Durant. You can give those double teams, but I very much want to see him be a little bit more selfish, find those shots for himself.
I went back and I watched the Kings game in its entirety today, and there were multiple moments where I was like, Book, you have to shoot that. And even on the broadcast, he had made the extra pass and it was to an open man and they didn't hit the shot. And Leander was like, that's the right pass. And while technically that is correct, that is the correct basketball move. Sometimes when you have a talent level of the likes of a Devin Booker, when you have the scoring ability of the likes of Devin Booker, you don't need to make the quote unquote correct basketball play every single time. He should not force them, but he should be a little bit greedier, especially without Kevin Durant. And I know that's kind of weird for me to say because it was about a week ago that I was sitting here saying after the 76ers game where he went 3 for 18, I want you to get a little bit more in your playmaking bag. But that was more about that specific situation. Your shot's not falling. You have Kevin Durant. You have Bradley Beal. Lean into what Steven has mentioned and what we have all said of, hey, Book is such an incredible passer. Lean into that in that moment. But on nights like last night, there was wide open threes he passed, or even shots that he took. It felt like it was about a quarter of a second later than when he would have decided to take it before. Like he was thinking, okay, I'm going to make all my reads, right? I'm going to look all around the court. Is anybody open? Is there the right pass? Okay, now I'm going to shoot, which that game you need to just go up and you need to fire because a non-confident Book on offense is not the type of Book that you need to win night in, night out with this team, especially without KD.
I don't know that he's not confident. I feel like he's very much trying to embrace the totality of Bud's system and try to take kind of that mentality he had in the Olympics that I'll do it to showcase to everybody that no one guy is above the whole, but at some point, Devin Booker needs to be above the whole, and I think that's fine. Basketball communism to an extent,
yes,
but at some point, be a little selfish.
Well, the I do it mentality is awesome, and it's great when you're on a Team USA that's chock full of some of the best this game has ever seen. And I love all the role players on the Suns, but they're not on Team USA, right? You're not at the point where Devin Booker needs to be taking the back seat to anybody. The only person he should be taking the quote backseat to is Kevin Durant. But there are still games where if Booker's going, everybody needs to take a backseat to him. Now, this season, Kevin Durant's had it on more, and Kevin Durant's been the best player on this team. But Book can still get to a similar level. We are going to hear now from Book, Beal, and Bud all about missing Kevin Durant last night.
You can never replace, what he brings to the table. Everybody just has to do a little bit more. It's a different style of basketball without him out there, and it's tough to cover up everything he does.
Obviously, our aggression on the offensive end, we gotta go. I think sometimes we kind of get a little stagnant, let the ball stick a little too much, and we ain't got K out there. So we gotta go and be aggressive, keep that ball moving, bodies moving. When we do that, we're really good. We're really hard to stop.
Our depth definitely, got tested. With Nerd going out, I think we've been talking about, how positive we are on Oso for him to come in and play well. And then Josh has done it now, I think 2 games in a row. And, I thought he had a really positive impact on the game. So, 2 guys that haven't been in the rotation, haven't played to come in tonight and be really good is, a good sign for us.
We've been talking about Book, and we haven't hit on Beal really yet. We will next segment. But the thing that Bud mentioned was the depth. And there's one role player in specific that I'm looking at and I say, you need to step up with Kevin Durant out. And I'm going to tell you exactly who that is. But first, we're going to take a quick break. I was driving into work today and I needed gas and I knew exactly where to go. It was Circle K. However, my daily route was changed because there's a Veterans Day parade going down 7th Street. That's usually what I take to get into the office. And I know there's 3 or 4 Circle Ks on my way in. So I had to go out of my way. I didn't even pull up maps, Espo. All I did was start driving towards downtown, knowing I would run into a Circle K. And I did. It was the cheapest price on gas. I could stop in there, get whatever drink I want. I will testify to Lindsay's chocolate-covered almonds. The dark chocolate ones are incredible, and Circle K is here for you and everybody across the valley. Plus, they want to help you save money. They do that with their Inner Circle membership. It is a free membership program, and it's so easy. All you have to do is download the app and put your phone number in, and now you can save money. It's 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups and 3 cents off per gallon every day. Once you get to the Espo and Eric level, you get 5 cents off per gallon every single day, plus discounts on drinks and snacks like the 79 cents Polar Prop or Froster for any Inner Circle member. Join the Inner Circle for free. Download the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details.
Look, Gerald, you know what I'm a 40. I don't even remember driving in today. But Lindsay, you know what I do remember? Our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. They are fantastic. I cannot forget about them. I just can't, Steven. They are fantastic. And right now, we are actually going to be doing some great things out there. We're going to have some watch parties out at Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass. We got one coming up on the 17th that we need you out there for. So make sure to come check it out. That is this Sunday. Man, November's flying by. Come out there. It is a 1:30 tip, I believe, against the Timberwolves. Should be a fun game, trying to get a little revenge on them. And while you're there, you can see there are over 4,500 slots, live table games, and one of the biggest sports books in Arizona. So you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit play@Gila.com for more details.
All right. I want to touch real quick on Grayson Allen before we get into some clutch stats. Now, these are Grayson Allen stats this year compared to last year. Last year, Grayson Allen averaged 13.5 points per game, 3 assists per game, 3.9 rebounds per game, 5.9 three-pointers attempted, shooting 46% on those threes, 9.1 field goals attempted in 33.5 minutes. You compare that to this season, 13.5 points goes to 8.3, 3 assists goes to 1.1, 3.9 rebounds goes to 2.3. Same amount of threes attempted per game at 5.9, but a way big drop off in percentage at 32%. He's taking less field goals and he's playing about 13 less minutes. Now, of course, this is only with a very, very small sample size this year. Are you at all worried about what we've seen from Grayson Allen so far?
Well, no, I look at it. No, Eric, I don't. He was hurt. He has a lot going on in life with the baby. He also changed his body type and his position, not his position, but his place in the lineup changed as well. Mm-hmm. I think this is a lot of adjustment for him to make in a very short period of time. In the long run, I think the law of averages play out. He's going to start hitting threes again. I think they may come in a flurry, and I think it's going to happen during this time with Kevin Durant out. You need it to happen, in fact. So I don't think we're far away from seeing Grayson Allen take that step back to form a little bit. But again, I also wonder, does he know in the back of his mind that he may be the most attractive trade piece this team has?
Yeah.
And does that weigh on you a little bit, having a new kid, knowing that that could be a factor in it? And how do you make sure that that isn't something that kind of plays a role in this?
Now, I think it's going to be interesting to watch how Grayson Allen continues to play. If you look at his first 10 games of last season, lots of ups and downs. He scored 0 points in the first game. A couple games later, he was at 26 points. He was very much like this. So I'm hoping that we're at this point for Grayson. But what's a little bit more interesting is the clutch numbers, Espo. And you did some research today, so I'm going to give you the floor about the big three's clutch numbers.
Yeah, look, I've been wondering, because we obviously saw Devin Booker miss that shot out for a game winner last night in the final seconds. I was looking at it and I decided, you know what, I'm going to look up what Devin Booker's stats in his entire career are in the final 30 seconds when his team is either up by 3 or trailing by 3. We pulled those numbers, and I believe we got a graphic on this as well. No, he's 23 of 79 according to NBA.com/stats. He's shooting 29% in those situations. Not ideal. And there was another look at it as well, that even on those in the final 24 seconds, not great as well. And I went and looked at the final 10 seconds of game. He's 19 of 75 on that, 25.3%. I think there's a fallacy that Devin Booker is this great last second shooter. I don't think that he's necessarily that guy sometimes. I think he takes a lot of shots. I think we remember the ones like the bubble, Madison Square Garden. There was a couple early in his career as well that I think there's a bit of a fallacy, because when you look at what Kevin Durant has done since 2015-16 in those same situations, which was Book's first season in the league, and yeah, it's Kevin Durant, but he's 30 of 75 there for 40% shooting according to NBA.com/stats. And this season, before he got injured, 3 of 4. Last season, 5 of 11. When you look at Devin Booker, 0 of 2 this season, 2 of 5 last season. Now, it's not fair to compare him to one of the greatest scorers of all time and one of the most clutch guys. But when you lose that guy and you're trying to fill in for it, you have to take a look at the reality of it. So I also looked at Bradley Beal, right? And Nacho. Close your eyes. From 2015 to 2016, obviously through the present, in the final 30 seconds when the team is up or down by 3s, 24 of 80 for 30%. There was a stretch where we went 9 of 12 in one season as well. So Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are actually on the same level. But Bradley Beal hasn't taken one this year, only took one shot in that situation last year. I kind of wonder if over this next stretch, you should kind of spread it out in terms of, are you going to Book? Are you going to Beal? Is there something else you drop? Because one of the things that when people know that ball's going to Devin Booker, a lot easier to defend that. And everybody last night, I think, was pretty damn sure that ball was going to Devin Booker. And I'm sorry, a fadeaway corner 3 ain't my favorite shot when you're trying to win a game there. So I don't want the expectation to be that Devin Booker's automatic in that. And that's not a knock on Devin. Most people are not Kevin Durant. But Kevin Durant is elite at that and has been extremely elite on that, so I think that's a big thing to consider, So, and also, Steven over here listening said Booker 8 of 22 with 4 seconds or less on the shot clock or game winner to consider as well. I think that's this season. So interesting to take into consideration. I wanted to look at that a little bit to put it in context, what you're really losing with Kevin Durant in the clutch there.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why the percentage is low, and K-Dub says in the chat, is the degree of difficulty of a lot of these shots, and especially last night's, the fadeaway corner 3 double team, right? And part of that is, for a majority of Devin Booker's career, if the Phoenix Suns needed one shot to win the game, it's going to Devin Booker.
I mean, he was playing with a roster that was not up to snuff. Is that
to
fair
say the
to
least?
say?
And I think maybe part of the reason why some fans could believe that Book is this god in the clutch is A, when he does hit it, it's like, that makes sense. That's Devin Booker. And B, I think it's because when you saw in the playoff runs that you've seen so many times, besides, some of the worst moments in Suns playoff history, usually he stepped up in those big moments. You think about the first time he makes the playoffs, right? When you're taking down the Lakers in Game 6 and you step on their throat and you break your own personal record for threes made in a game, or you go against the Clippers and you get a triple double. When he steps up in those big moments, and even you're in the finals with back-to-back 40-point games despite an injury, Book is the type of guy who rises to those moments. However, statistically, just at the end of games, in those tough shots, when you're 7 feet tall with an insanely long wingspan and one of the most gifted shooters the game has ever seen in Kevin Durant, those type of shots come a lot easier than somebody who is still, yes, immensely talented in Devin Booker, but the shot profile, the body type doesn't lend itself as much to highly efficient results in the clutch. And like you said, that's not a knock on him. It's just more of like hey, realistically, this is what goes on in these situations.
Well, I also think when you look at those numbers, it puts into perspective. It's not easy in those situations. Kevin Durant, who's viewed as one of the best to ever do it, missed 60% of those shots when you look at it since 2015-16, right? He's hit 40%. Like that shows that the degree of difficulty, the pressure in those situations is a lot even for a great, right? And I think we need to factor that in as well in this expectation over the time without him. Now, I highly doubt we're going to get another 7-8 games that are all clutch situations, that are all 3 points, or, one way or the other for this team. But we've seen it in spades this year already, and what we've seen Kevin Durant do is not normal. Not even normal for him in terms of what he's done historically, just to keep in mind.
And we mentioned it in all these close games. Well, you can definitely go out there and say there is value in getting the reps in these do-or-die situations and pulling out victories. It was not a sustainable way to win for an entire season.
No.
Sooner or later, playing in close games means losing in close games. And the Suns being 7-0 in clutch time situations and clutch time games was just not something that you could extrapolate over an entire season. And especially when you lose Kevin Durant, it puts even more of an emphasis and an onus on them to blow some teams out. However, when you look at the schedule, the Jazz are really the only team that you can look at it and say, oh, the Suns should blow them out, because after that, they play the Kings, the Thunder, who even without Chet Holmgren, still a good team, the Timberwolves, the Magic, the Knicks, the Lakers, and then the next opportunity you have for a blowout is the Nets, which, despite the record, have played good teams tough. You need what we talked about earlier, Devin Booker to step up and be true to form, Bradley Beal to play like he did last night, 28 points with a ton of hustle for Bradley Beal. You need all of that even more so without Kevin Durant in the lineup, but you need to get in that mode now for when KD comes back, all of that gels together, and you don't need to just rely on clutch time situations. You can win by 10 points. You can win by 15 points. That was always something that was, hey, this is the next step for this team.
Look, there's a lot that you have to still learn. Even if Kevin Durant was still playing right now, there's a lot that this team has to learn before they go on and continue to try to make their run through the rest of the season. This is, I hate to, put lipstick on a pig and to put it that way, but they have to learn this. I actually think this might not be the worst thing for it to happen early, so you can get some of these situations. And you're not the only team dealing with injuries. You're dealing with
there's more teams who aren't.
Just look at OKC and Chet Holmgren, who will be reevaluated in 2 months.
The Pelicans have lost basically their entire starting lineup. I mean, we always knew with any group of superstars in the NBA, but even specifically with this one, injuries were always going to be a factor. We're going to continue to talk about the Suns throughout the week. Of course, we'll have post-game shows, but there is momentous historic occasion tonight, and we're going to get you ready for it, but we're going to do it on the other side of a quick break. Few things have been in my family for generations, and Desert Financial Credit Union is actually one of them. And that's not just an ad read, that's legitimate.
And that sweater.
This sweater, I wish. I wish the sweater was passed down a little bit more vintage. I had to actually buy this recently, but I could do that because I saved money with Desert Financial Credit Union. My grandparents used it, my parents used it, and I've used it ever since I started working my first job all the way back in high school. There's no better place to do your banking than DFCU, whether it's your basics, your checkings, and your savings accounts, or if you're, maybe on board for some more complicated things. Your mortgages, your loans, your credit cards, investment options. They have many locations across the valley, and they do so with a smile on their face. I've never had a bad experience over at Desert Financial Credit Union. But as always, I'm burying the lead, Espo. They want to give you $200 for free.
Well, everybody, not just
you.
Okay.
They want to give you more than that, but they can't because they have to treat everybody fairly. And right now, when you open up a free checking account online, you can get $200 in bonuses. Where else are you going to put your money and actually make money? Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200.
When you think of a good time and a party, you think of Espo. And this New Year's Eve, you can come party with me at a Phoenix Suns game, as we're going to do a takeover in a suite. That's right, a suite at Footprint Center. You can come and join us. Tickets are on sale right now as the Suns will take on the Grizzlies. We'll be out there booing Ja Morant and having some fun watching, the new year coming into the picture, 2025. You can head over to gophnx.com/events and you can get your tickets right now. So join us out there for New Year's Eve.
Well, we do have a takeover today, but not for a Suns game. It's for a Valley Suns game. And for the first time in the history of the Valley Suns, they're playing a home game out at Mullet Arena in Tempe. And there is no better way to welcome in the season than to welcome on the brand new voice of the Valley Suns. And yes, actually a good longtime friend of mine, Braiden Bell. You probably saw him on the broadcast last night with Tom Leander and Eddie Johnson. Braiden, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Yeah, you are not lying. We are real friends, good friends. So good to see you, pal. Thanks for having me on.
Crazy. Crazy.
I'm going to lie. Braiden and I go way back as well. Braiden, I apologize that you've been Eric's friend that long, but how exciting is it to get the opportunity to be the voice of the Valley Suns?
It's a dream come true, man. Hasn't really sunk in yet. Maybe tonight it will while the game's going on. But yeah, it's been kind of a whirlwind couple of weeks. Just found out it was going to happen and then kept the announcement quiet as I possibly could for the last couple of weeks. And then, yeah, the hard launch, if you will, was last night during the Suns game. And that was a really great night that I'll remember for a long time. And then, yeah, we get it going tonight and should be a lot of fun at Mullet.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot, much like they did on the broadcast last night. I want you to give me an elevator pitch. Why should people who love the Phoenix Suns care about the Valley Suns?
Well, you guys were just talking about injuries. People need to fill in the roster when people are injured. So you've got three great two-way players. Colin Gillespie's a little banged up right now, but Ty Washington nearly had a triple-double in the second game of the year. So if you're a real hoop head, you have to watch the Valley Suns because it's the future. It could be, and we've seen countless guys come up from the G League and contribute at an NBA level. So now especially that it's under the Suns' roof, it's right here in Tempe. More affordable if you're local to come out to a game. You could sit close and appreciate the athleticism and the length of these players. I mean, everything's just amplified when you sit closer, as you guys know. But it's an awesome opportunity for the community to kind of rally around another entity of the Suns family, and gets going tonight.
I got to give you a hard time. I did the math. You graduated in 2019, correct? From ASU, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's 13 years after I graduated college. You're making me feel old, but what does it mean to be able to go from graduating from Cronkite back in 2019 to not only being the voice of the Valley Suns, but also being a voice of Sun Devil Athletics on ESPN Plus? I mean, that's a pretty meteoric rise that you've taken here.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it is interesting. Well, you say I'm old, but then I look at Eric and I think I'm old. So it's kind of weird how that all works. In terms of doing ASU stuff, that's great, being for the alma mater. But I kind of was around that element when I was in school, and even though it was on a different platform, I'd still call ASU games. Not to take anything away from it now, it's still very special every time. But yeah, to do it for the Suns and to do it here in Tempe as well, and tonight, as Eric said, like introing this segment, it is a bit of a historic night that, it's the first home game ever for the franchise. Like it's special, man. It really is. And I'm going to not take it for granted whatsoever. And just really pumped up to be here and to, bring Suns Nation every game this fall and winter into the spring, maybe some playoff games. We'll see.
Was basketball kind of your first love? What got you into sports? I know a lot of people have that origin story. What was yours?
Yeah, okay. So I was actually just talking about this with my girlfriend and my mom earlier this morning. I would mute like Madden or 2K. I guess it was NBA Live back then, but whatever video game I was playing when I was like 6 or 7, and I would broadcast them. So that was like my villain origin story, if you will. I was like hijacking video game calls as a child, which is insane, but whatever. And yeah, I've always loved basketball, of course. Baseball was kind of my sport I would play, but basketball, I played it as well until I, hit a growth spurt. I was 6'3", almost 6'4", and they tried to play me down low, and I was like, I'm not trying to get elbowed. I don't need a scrap in the paint. I just want to shoot. So when that happened, my career ended, and I put the headset on for good, and I guess it's worked out okay. I don't know. It's all right.
I mean, you could take an elbow if somebody comes over that scorer's table at you tonight. So be ready for that.
Well, the good news is we're situated up high. We're situated up high, so we should be good. We're like right at the top of the concourse at Mullet. It's great perspective.
Well, I'm out there. I'll throw an elbow when I see you tonight.
He actually
will.
Okay. He's not joking. All right. All the formalities aside, let's talk just a little bit of hoop here. Jalen Bridges has been playing really well for the Valley Suns so far. If he were to make it up to the big league team, what could they expect from him?
Athleticism out of the gym. I mean, all these guys, I think Jalen is maybe the most athletic guy on this team, but I know I mentioned the length and in the athleticism. That is his game in a nutshell. A great player in college, and he hasn't really had any sort of growing pains. I know it was kind of a sleepy signing. It didn't really make the headlines. In fact, it was a lot of Bridges talk when he was signed in the comments section. But he could be a really valuable player, and I think this is exactly what the G League is for, is just to get him reps. Get him more comfortable playing in the professional style of game. And he's a guy that, he's probably not going to be a superstar if and when he reaches the big league club roster, but he can be someone that could contribute off the bench, a really long athletic guy who, is focused a lot more on defense, certainly, and offensively, he can fill it up.
Last two quick questions for you. One, if somebody can't make it in the building tonight at Mullet, where can they find the game? Where can they hear your voice?
Yeah, so G League basketball, it varies, but there is going to be one constant locally, 3TV, Arizona Family. So the same channel that the Phoenix Suns are on, it'll be the same channel every single night. If there's ever a game where the Phoenix Suns are playing at the same time as the Valley Suns, we'll be on right after. So if you didn't get enough basketball action, you could turn it into a whole night marathon, essentially. And then if you're out of market, there's some games on ESPN Plus. There's some games on Tubi, NBA, GLeague.com. It's all on the Valley Suns website. Honestly, I'm still learning it all as well. But the one to remember if you're local is 3TV. It'll be on Arizona Family Sports. So that's easy.
There we go. 3TV. And then the last one from our chat. Do you believe that the nickname White Noise is good for me? Do you think it's fitting?
White? Well, you're loud. So
yes.
And he's white.
Very.
So we've got a couple of boxes checked. I would have to sit on that for a minute, but I kind of like that. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think
it's been adopted and has been in the rotation for a couple months now.
White Noise Ruby. That has a nice ring to it. I'm in on that.
We were originally going to say pasty white noise, but we decided to be kinder than that. Looking forward to meeting you tonight, man. We're going to be out there, and I can't wait to shake your hand and congratulate you in person.
I appreciate it. Yeah, come say hi for sure, and should be a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Man, good luck tonight.
Thank you, Braiden. You can follow him on social media at Braiden Bell PXP. That stands for play-by-play. Espo, final thoughts. What are you excited for tonight?
I'm excited to meet Ginger Grimace.
Yeah.
The mascot, Ray, out there. Looking forward to seeing him. Looking forward to spending some time with the diehards and actually taking in that atmosphere out there at Mullet. Amazing for hockey. Can only imagine it'll be great for basketball and getting to see young talent like Jalen Bridges. I'm excited to see Ty Washington out there, the local product as well. Should be a good night.
Never been in Mullet before. I'm super excited to go to Mullet and watch a game there. And you mentioned Jalen Bridges. Braiden mentioned Jalen Bridges. We do have an interview up between Lindsay and the G League Valley Suns head coach. Here's what he had to say about Jalen Bridges.
Jalen, I mean, he's a 6'9", long, athletic, just typical, prototypical, like 3-and-D kind of wing. For us, it's just letting him get up to speed with the pace of the game, understanding a little bit of the nuances, continue to grow his defensive side, and then just give him a bunch of confidence shooting the basketball, which he already kind of has a knack for.
If you missed that interview, it is up right now on PHNX Sports. That is right here, in case you didn't know that. He talks about Mike Budenholzer's philosophy, rubbing off on the G League, Colin Gillespie, Ty Washington, and what exactly they are trying to achieve. But Espo, we have a takeover to get to. And if you are maybe feeling a little left out as this takeover is sold out, go to gophnx.com/events, or just come this Sunday as well, as we have a watch party over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. That is free. Of course, we will be bringing you pre and post game shows for every game this week and for the rest of the season. And you can keep track of all of that at PHNX_Suns on social media. That is X/Twitter and also on Instagram. You can follow myself at Eric Ruby, ERIKRUBY. I don't know if our new producer Noah has a social media. I haven't seen it, so he's going to have to slide that to me so I can get him into the outro next time. But once again, we're welcoming Noah Wolbrecht behind the Mac. He'll be with us for, of course, the rest of the season and going forward. And finally, if you want to, you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
Big thanks to Steven for staring daggers at me while texting stuff to me in the show to make sure I didn't sound like an idiot. Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.